Hello. Thank you, people, for being here. My name is Julieta Campos. We are trying to fix our camera, but the session will go through. So I think now it's working. So happy for that. And okay, welcome officially to our third session. Today, we will share uh, how having creative approach about the end of poverty. This will be a session about creative ways to spread awareness about how to end or how to contribute to ending poverty. As we said in many sessions before, there is no single approach to ending poverty, and it's not a single route. That is why today we will examine some ideas, tips, experiences from activists, organizations, uh, and people that have taken the challenge to advocate about ending poverty worldwide. Um, how these issues are approached are very important to move forward to accomplish goal 1 of Agenda 2030 from Sustainable Development Goals, which is actually end poverty in all its forms. And to eradicate poverty, it is also an essential part of peace building commitment and efforts. So, Agenda 2030, which is Agenda 2030 in Spanish, defines a little bit what means poverty. Poverty is more than the lack of income and resources to ensure a sustainable living. Its manifestations include hunger and malnutrition, limited access to education and different basic services, social discrimination and exclusion, and well as lack of participation in decision making. Economic growth must be inclusive to provide sustainable jobs and promote quality. Then it can be said poverty is one of the big issues that we face worldwide. Not only the one, but it's a big step to start acting definitively to eradicate the poverty and strongly commit to empower people to move forward by giving better education, more resources, and enable communities to become more sustainable. If we move forward into these directions, then peace building will become a reality. So, um, peace building processes are global, involves global and community efforts. We're empowering communities and people, giving communities the tool to move forward, are also part of this vital process. Um, we can act locally, regionally, at the national levels, and as we said, globally. Uh, every single effort counts. So by now, let me remind you that you are very welcome to log into the chat with us, leave, or continue to watch and share your thoughts with us later. Uh, ending poverty and being uh, involved in specific and concrete actions against poverty uh, make us usually ask or question ourselves, what can we do? There is like few recurrent questions that people like you and me make ourselves. What can we do to contribute to the end of poverty? What activists and organizations can do to improve that? One useful thing is to be aware of what your skills are, what you are good at. May you be good on social networks, on fundraising, which is the best way to cooperate. You need to identify your skills so you can start moving into action. You can also partner with other people, activists, and NGOs. it's normal that we question ourselves what to do as regular common citizens. We can do a lot. I will try to uh, surfing a few ideas, as we said at the beginning, and experiences on what has worked and what haven't worked in the fight against poverty. One of the first ones I would like to share with you today is, and I think it's crucial, it's demand action as global citizens. We live in an area, in a city, in a neighborhood. This is the micro situation. But nowadays, we are global citizens and we have to have that conscious. We have to be aware of that situation, that it's also something that can empower us. Everyone can play a role in ending poverty. So it's good when you get involved, when you ask governments and international institutions to transform commitments into actions. Now, today, uh, it's fine to think how can you become more participatory and how governments can become more participatory when demanding action to fight against poverty. Not only leads to raise awareness, but it's essential to strengthen peace building efforts. So, participation is vital at all levels: governments, NGOs, and people. One nice example I found to share, and I was reading the experience from the people from Build Abroad that says that advocating for peace rather than supporting military conflicts, global citizens can help to reduce the catastrophic human toll of war, for example, just to give you an idea. They know these people from Build Abroad that when you start advocating for peace and you make accountable to the governments and official institutions that is not right to go through military conflicts, because when you have a violent environment, poverty increase and peace building effort uh, have to be triplicated actually in order to make dignity and sustainable living for everyone in a culture of peace. So, in addition, for example, advocate to avoid conflicts. It can help also alleviate the financial cost of military intervention, which often results in reducing fundings for education and wealth, which is also an issue, a route that leads to poverty reduction. Um, this is one of the first examples I wanted to share. It works. It works advocating for peace. It's not something, as we say in Spanish, would be like letra muerta, that means something theoretical. It's something that leads into the fight of poverty and poverty reduction itself. Um, so, other situation in which you can act as global citizen fighting against poverty uh, is when you travel. Nowadays, a lot of us used to travel uh, and we go out, we go abroad to discover the world. So responsible tourism can help improve the lives of people in poor communities. It increased the employment, the resources for education and health, and also dignity to ensure social problems uh, don't grow, don't escalate. It can help also to reduce the inequality and wealth uh, contributing to national economies at large. It's also understanding that the role you play in the world is vital, and critically thinking about how your everyday action impacts on others. Other situation in which you can act and demand action as global citizens is in your daily life. What do you choose? For example, most of us drinks coffee, right? Or tea or mate. Let's say in Argentina and South America, we drink mate, for example, something which is a daily situation for us. So, from the coffee or mate or tea you choose to buy on the supermarket, to the behavior you show to those of other races and religions, it's understanding how policies in your own country, in your own area, can affect other humans around the world. Is the policies about the products, about the agriculture, about the market benefiting your nation at significant expense to one another? You can question yourself about that. You can research more on the policies, and once you know, you can decide, for example, if the coffee you are buying in the supermarket affects the coffee producers in your country for bad or for good, or in other area in the world. As national citizens, you can influence the policy decision of your governments, and as a global citizen, you have the obligation to do that in order to uphold the rights of your fellow global citizens. Is the clothes that you are buying coming from manufacturers that use kids for producing those clothes? uh, what the government, your government, says about that? They are taking action on that. They are taking acknowledgement and providing better policies to prevent that situations. So as you can see, this is uh, these are few ideas, resources, and information about how you can demand action as global citizens. Something that you do now, today, right there where you are, can impact profoundly for the better or for the worse. Be aware of that, not to, you know, cry over the rain, but just to empower yourself to commit and do something. The next thing about having a creative approach is choose and focus one issue at a time. Ending poverty is not just about people incomes. It's also about their access to things like water, health, education, houses, and security. Bringing everyone about the extreme poverty line of 1.25 cents a day is just the first step. One useful thing is to focus on one subject and from there start to raise awareness one step at a time. Uh, well, at your wall, actually, one of our goals is each one, teach one. That's what is mean your wall, one at a time. Also in our actions. One example for this is go out there in your area, get informed about the situation of people without access to healthcare basics. And once you get uplifted and updated info, look for example for an NGO, for a community, and help them to improve their current situations. You can, for example, help to collect medicine, sometimes food, books for education. But it is also important to remind that um, giving people money actually is not uh, the best thing you can do. It's best to provide people with resources, to teach them, to empower them. So when they receive economic aid or whatever it's involved with economy and financial assistance, they will be really empowering themselves as well. Communication and strength community bonds and relationships. This is other thing you can focus on to have a creative approach on poverty reduction. When you get connected with people and you open a space where people from the different communities are able to meet, to discuss, to reflect, and become part of a democratic participatory process, they find a really a nurturing space where to find the best suitable solutions for them. Building reliable and trusting relationships with people and encourage them to become actively involved on the solution processes is really important. Uh, you don't want to think instead of people. They are the best who knows what is going through, and the best you can do for them is to open those space to build strong bonds in the community and to promote a democratic participatory process is the best you can do. And you will be also amazed on how people find better solutions for their situations. Other thing is about education, which is uh, close and related with poverty reduction. For example, is the educational system according to the new challenges on poverty issues and peace building efforts? Uh, this is one big question you can ask yourself. Education is an essential part of any peace building process and is vital to reduce poverty because it enables people to start thinking by themselves and become part of the solution and starting uh, finding better resources for their situations. It's also empowering people with new and more creative approaches. That is why education is essential to children and people because they can get at least literacy and numeracy as basics. But if we go further, education helps to break the poverty cycle. Education in all different forms is a key to breaking the cycle of poverty. It has an uplifting effect on other aspects of the society that may seem totally unrelated. For example, such as girl education lowering the number of prenatal deaths. The relationship between poverty and education is quite complex, as everything about poverty, but education helps people make healthier and smarter decisions about their children, their life goals, and the way they live. It also has have a significant role in the fight for the children's rights, both in teaching children what they can and should expect from adults, and in showing adults the benefits of respecting the children's rights. So, we have an example to share today from experiences in Timor-Leste. Children's, a group of children have stepped forward advocating for their rights in schools through the Children's Against Violence Project. A group of children were touring around the country and they were raising awareness about corporal punishment through theatrical drama. Uh, in context of poverty, And when you face poverty situations and realities, violence is a big issue because it has a strong presence in the communities, in the people's lives, and also it has some cultural aspect. The corporal punishment, it's uh, something that it's accepted in some cultures and in some areas. So this was sorry, a very creative approach to raise awareness about corporal punishment and the rights of children, which also led the, to poverty reduction and contribute to peace building efforts. Um, we are talking about violence because we also mentioned on previous session that violence is part of the poverty cycle that involves individuals, communities, and further. Um, that is why advocating to raise awareness about violence helps to reduce poverty and strengthen the culture of peace. In this and many other cases, education is a powerful tool that can make a world, uh, on the world, better conditions for everyone. Sorry, I'm realizing I'm moving today more, a little bit more on the screen. So sorry. Other example about education, it's from Pratham. I will write here. Pratham organization. Pratham, it's an organization that was established back in 1994, and they dedicated to provide education to children belonging to the slums of Mumbai. The team of Pratham, uh, it's integrated with civil servants, PhDs, social workers, educationists, and many other educated personnel who were working for developing the future of their children in the country. They started with the aim to offer every child the fundamental right to education. Pratham is an organization that has grown slowly into a larger organization, now covering 19 countries, now 19 states of India. And uh, it has different programs, but it has focused on different flagship programs comprising from reading to math, from science to bio education for children. They also have a nice program, which for me was mm, very creative and very important, which is called Second Chance, that provides young girls and women with a second chance to start or continue with their education. They promote also a culture of evidence-based decision making, aiming to strengthen links between evidence and action, which also leads to better policy making programs as part of the the, the fight against poverty. And when you talk about things like policy making, global activism, or global citizens, it's seems a little bit abstract. These topics we are sharing, it's to give you uh, the idea that these kind of abstract concepts or situations can turn into action when you open your mind, when you see what's going on, when you get involved. And that's why we share also examples of people and organizations that actually are going through that. They started with questioning themselves what can they do about X situation, and they started. to act. Uh, and I found very interesting in Pratham that they based all their programs in the culture of evidence-based decision making. Uh, this is probably the main strength they have because they provide their programs based on real facts, on real findings, no, not in assumptions, which is something we we have talked in previous session. It's important not to act based on our own assumptions. We really have to know what's going on for real, not what we imagine that it's going on to. Um, the other thing is get affected people involved, which is connected with the previous examples we were sharing. Um, Outreach International, it's an organization, and Dr. Denis Lavayen, who is one of the founders, says the first step is to get the people directly affected by the problems of issues uh, of poverty in the community. They have to be actively and authentically participating in the efforts to fight poverty. Dennis was working since 1973 to create a sustainable and permanent solution to poverty in many poor communities around the world. And after years of research and implementation, Dennis and his team have fine-tuned a process that they name it participatory human development. Well, right here. Uh, Based on on 9 steps, which I will try to highlight a little bit of those steps of the process here. The 9 steps from this participatory human development from Outreach International is about integration. They say activists working on field have to become familiar in the community. They have to visit homes, engage in one-on-one conversations, create mutual respect, trust, and open communication. Then they focus on social investigation. In this point, their activists and their teams gather and analyze the data about the community and their issues. They start knowing who are their natural leaders, what help might government be induced to give. And when social investigation is properly performed, it enables to assist the people to the next step, which is problem identification and prioritization. This step of the process must be carried out collectively by the people. Often, what is perceived as a problem for one person may not be seen as a problem for the other or for the community as a whole. So, developing the people's confidence and demonstrating problem solving skills are important. Groundworking, like a next part of the process, prepares people physically and psychologically to participate in groups activities. It involves raising awareness, developing commitment, and encouraging participation in organizational activities. But most of all, enables people to undertake these activities on their own in a continuous basis. There's also a part of this process called public meetings, which they say in their organization. It's very important because the community comes together to analyze, plan, and develop solutions for their problems. Uh, it involves role playing for the mobilization, and in this part, they build the confidence between the community. They are able to negotiate with an outside party or individuals in a more equal footing. And then they mobilize and they call to action. The community, after going through the process, is ready to implement their plans. They will have face-to-face contact with the outside parties or individuals who are responsible for making the decisions concerning their problems, their partners, actually. So that they go through an evaluation, which is the eighth step, that gives the community a chance to assess and to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of their action and determine whether or not their goals have been achieved. And reflection, which is the final step, conducted after a project or activity is done, and rounds out the learnings and lessons, which determines new values, knowledge, and awareness. As you can see, this whole process is centered on the people and the communities facing poverty issues. It's not about what we as persons want to do. It's about what they need. It's about to empower them. It's about to support them to find their own strengths and their own solutions. Um, Another organization I will just mention today is PRAC, which is Poverty and Race Research Action Council. It's just a few lines about them. They sponsor social science research and provide technical skill assistance to advocate and researches around particular race and poverty issues. Um, uh, the poverty and race issues are closely connected in different areas in the world. There is still a lot of conflicts in poverty that leads to more poverty, and they increase situations of racism, of violence, and this kind of situation. So Prague focus on this. It's important when you mm, find an organization, an activist, or a place where you feel like you can cooperate to really know what they are doing, to validate the findings, their researchings, the studies, and their work. As persons uh, that we have a very big responsibility when we do something about uh, poverty reduction, when we do something to create awareness, when we do something to strengthen the bonds in communities facing poverty issues. We need to be very serious about what we are doing, how, and with the people we are, let's say, I call it like partnering. If you are going with an organization, an NGO, and you decide to volunteer or to promote a program or whatever you're doing, please take your time to review, to see if they really are doing what they are saying, what are the values, and then put a foot in and go from uh, go into action where you decide to act, right? Or to cooperate. um I think it's really important. You have thousands of websites of organizations and activists. uh, if you get serious about that, then everything you do will have a real impact and will help for real to fight against poverty. So, in next to this, is good to remind that you have to get on-site information. Because when you read the statistics reports, which are very important, it's also important um, have the information from the people itself. They are the better that can tell you what they need and what is going through. We keep saying this and we keep reminding this because it's something that sometimes we tend to do. We tend to make our own assumptions, or we tend to think that what we read on reports, it's real. It's what's going through for real, and it's not always like that. So act based on real facts and don't make your own assumptions. Start connecting with people, listen to them, and ask them what they think is needed. It's the best way you can really impact positively in the fight against poverty and in the communities. People living in need needs to be supported, to discover their own power, get organized, and connect into movements, publicly demanding their rights from local institutions, national governments, and powerful corporate bodies. It's important and it works when people become actively involved in the communities with democratic participation that it's led by community leaders, their own community leaders. Um, so far, these topics today are really uh, very interesting. We can share uh, a lot through. I would like to have a feedback from you, from your own experiences. There is a lot that works, and there is a lot that is not working. To recap, don't make your own assumptions. That no, it doesn't work. It doesn't help. It's not effective. Please, uh, nobody will argue with that. That if you're right in the other side now, watching or listening, uh, asking yourself or telling to yourself, I want to help. We all want to help. The thing is, we have people that already help it before us, and we have to learn about also the importance of their own experiences, their the the rights and the wrongs. So if you want to get involved, be creative, ask, don't make assumptions, and get people involved. If you are partnering with an NGO, if you are volunteering, please take the time to find out what they do for real, what are their values, and if feel comfortable with the values of the people you are um, partnering with, you are volunteering, or with the group you are working with. If you don't really feel it, you will not mm, make the best impact that you would meant to do, and will not be real. So in every step of the the actions we make, we focus on the dignity, the values, and the reality. Um, well, there is other info we can share now for you, so we all can have the chance to serve a little more deeper into organizations and experiences. I will suggest you about Plan International. This is an organization that has presence in Africa, Asia, and America. Their work focus on breaking the cycle of poverty and investing in the cycle of progressing, which I think is very interesting. Uh, Sometimes we tend to focus on the problem more than the solutions. So investing in cycles of progressing appears to me very attractive. And how is investing in cycle of progressing? You may think about money, funding, not necessarily, and it's not the real aid that helps to reduce poverty. Plan International main goals is to achieve lasting improvements in the quality of life of children, families, and communities in developing countries. Doing this through a process of collaboration that unites people across cultures, add meaning and value to their lives. Here, you will have the chance to test between poverty reduction and peace building by working in these cycles of progressing. They have several programs, and not on these programs you will see they provide financial assistance. They do something more important than that. They provide resources, awareness, dignity, and empowerment to people. There is also another organization that you may like to know, which is the MDG Fund organization. Their focus is to trigger real change for the better in people's lives and influence public policy making, more responsive to the needs of the poor. MDGs is from Spain and it has supported 130 programs in 50 countries around the world. They partner with uh, local and national and regional agencies and UN agencies and partners also. They support uh, programs that can be scaled up into national policy frameworks uh, in every nation they are working with or they are working in. The areas of action range from child nutrition to youth employment, women's empowerment, and culture and development. From these organizations, you will see why encouraging the adoption of positive policy frameworks based on program results is essential to produce more effective peace building efforts. Um, well, we are going through our end today. Uh, as final thought, I would like to share with you there is nothing more inspiring than people that actually did take action, teach to others about their experience, and move on. So far, we encourage you to please share your insights, your experiences. As usual, if you have any doubts or questions, you can email us to popprogram@yourworld.org. I will write it right on the chat box. And please excuse us for the technical issues. We are doing these sessions for a while in public spaces until well I I am able to solve these difficulties. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for being there, and we'll see you next Thursday to share more content, ideas, and experiences about the goal one of Agenda 2030, which is Agenda 2030, to end poverty in all its forms. Um, well, thank you very much again. I will share with you our email, as I mentioned before, and I am happy to share with you this moment, our ideas, and continue to exploring and deepen how we can contribute to the end of poverty. Thank you. See you in the next session, and thank you very much for being here. Bye bye.